How's it going, YouTube? You got Pat Mack here, coach of the Sacramento Sand / and commissioner of the Game Room VGC Series 8 Draft League. We're going to take a look at power rankings today as we rank our teams up to the highest power team. There's a couple different metrics that we're going to look at today. One of them is going to be to see if a team has a powerful Dynamax option, something like a G-Max Cinderace. We're also going to be looking to see if a team has some sort of speed control, something like a Talonflame to get a really fast Tailwind off. Also going to look to see if a team has some sort of damage control, something with Intimidate and Snarl like a Crocodile. Also going to look to see if a team has some sort of redirection. A Moongus would be a great option with Rage Powder. Also going to look to see if a team has some form of terrain control, something like a Tapu Bulu, for example. And the last metric we're going to take a look at is if there's some sort of weather control, something like a Groudon, to be able to get that weather up. So we're going to take a look at all those different metrics as we check out teams. Keep in mind that with any power rankings, this one included, these are of course personal opinions, and just because we have them in this order doesn't mean the teams are going to end in this order. So without further ado, let's take a look at our first team. First team we got over here is Rebellion, and you can see their team up on the screen there. They've got a lot of really solid options, really powerful Dynamax options: Mewtwo, Charizard, Regigigas, of course. Togekiss could also Dynamax and be very scary as well. So really good, powerful Dynamax options there. They do have some speed control. They have some speed control with Trick Room from NDD. It could also be Imprison Trick Room, so you could also stop a Trick Room team from going up that way. There's also, I believe actually Togekiss gets Tailwind as well, so there's that option for some speed control there. So really solid options in terms of speed control. And then they also have some good damage control. They have Prankster Screens on Klefki as a really good way to mitigate some damage going on there. I believe also Herdier has Intimidate, so another option there in terms of lowering some damage outputs. They also have Redirection, of course, with Togekiss. Togekiss is an amazing redirect Pokemon. One thing that the team is missing is it doesn't have any... Oh no, it does have terrain control. It has Indeedee, so it does have that as well. It's missing weather control, so if a team is setting up weather, they don't have a way to really stop or take advantage of that. You could say that they do have a Klefki Prankster, so they could go with some weather in that direction, so that's a possibility as well. So overall, really solid team, and really excited to see how they do this season. Next up, we got the amazing Azumarill. You can see their team as well. They have, of course, a freaking amazing, powerfully Dynamax option, that Gigantamax Lapras. Super powerful option there. They also have options in Ho-Oh and Como, I think are probably their best Dynamax options. So Lapras is probably the one we're going to see in most matches during this season. And of course, they have a couple of other options that can go along with that. They got some pretty solid speed control in Oranguru. Being able to get off Trick Room is really solid. And then they also have some good damage control. They have Lightning Rod on Marowak, which I think is going to be super sweet, with their Lapras and Ho-Oh both being weak to that. They also have Riolu for the Prankster. I believe it's called Coaching. Yeah, the Prankster Coaching to buff up some of their allies, which I think is going to be pretty solid as well. And some good damage control in the Oranguru also with instructing a Pokemon. So some pretty cool options there. This team is missing terrain control, so if a team is taking advantage of terrain with like a Psychic Spam or something like that, they don't really have a way to stop that outside of a Dynamax move. And then they do have some redirection. They have Togepi, not the greatest redirector, but they do have it. And so we're also missing some weather control from their side. This team I thought had like their powerful Gigantamax options I think are really good. And their damage control actually with the Aurora Veil I think is going to be a really solid option for this team. So really cool options for them, and really excited to see how they do this season as well. Next up, we have the Sacramento Sand. This is the team that I am coaching for this season. And so this team has terrain control up the wazoo. It's got all sorts of terrain between Pinkirchen, and Ndidi. Also some really solid Dynamax options. Dragapult being a fantastic option. Hawlucha, Xerneas, Caparaja, all those being really good options to Dynamax. It does have some damage control between Intimidate on Arcanine as well as Snarl on Thievul. And of course some redirection in Ndidi. There's also some good speed control here between kind of the Unburden options that this team has, as well as Trick Room on Behemoth. And then it also has, so one thing it's missing here that some other teams might have is weather control. And this one actually doesn't have it. My team does not have a way of dealing with weather very well, at least. Dynamax options are kind of the way that it has to deal with weather, and that's not always the best way to be able to handle that. So it could be a weakness for this team moving forward, but still a lot of really solid, powerful options here. Next up, we have the Colorado Rock Slides. And when we take a look at their team, they have some really freaking powerful options for Dynamax. Thundurus, Gengar Gigantamax, Colossal Gigantamax, and that Necrozma Duskmane, excuse me. So really good options there. They also have some really solid speed control. Between having Prankster Thunder Wave on the Thundurus and having Tailwind on the Noivern, they got some really solid options there in terms of working with really fast teams. They also have Aqua Jet on the Primarina to hit that Gigantamax Colossal and make it super fast with Steam Engine. So a really powerful combination right there too. One thing this team is missing is the redirection. So it's missing some sort of redirection to stop kind of the other like self-procking weakness policy teams that you often see in VGC series games. So that could be a way that teams take advantage of this, but they also have their own very strong option there between Primarina and Colossal. This team also does not have terrain control necessarily, or weather control. I think there are some options for Thundurus in terms of Prankster weather control, but for the most part, this team is up here in the higher rankings because it has freaking powerful Gigantamax options that can just win the game on their own. One thing I don't think I'd mentioned yet was it does have the debuffing options and buffing options actually. I believe it's, I think Charger Bug Battery makes your team stronger on their hits, which is a pretty cool tech to bring in here. And then of course Scrafty has Intimidate to lower some of the opponent's attacks. So really cool option. Also excited to see how this team does this season. Next up, we got the Warren Centralizations. This team has power. This team's got power. Rotom Heat, I think, is one of those Pokemon that is a little slept on, but I think it's got super good options in terms of its power against other really big and powerful restricted Pokemon. A lot of things are hit by either fire type coverage, because there's a lot of powerful steel restricteds, or they're flyers, and so the electric attacks hit those really hard too. So really cool options from that side of things. They have some really good powerful Dynamax options, of course, with Landorus being a good option. And actually, I guess that's really the only one. Landorus kind of feels like it's going to carry the Dynamax options for this team. I was about to say Zacian and Zamazenta, but those actually don't Dynamax. So they may be missing out on some of that power from being a really good, powerful Dynamax team. Latias can do it as well. But those are kind of the two that I see Dynamaxing for this team very often. However, Zamazenta, Crowned, and Zacian can also bring a lot of power depending on which one they decide to bring. They have some pretty solid redirection. I think that Tangela is a really, really good budget Pokemon to pick up for that Rage Powder redirection. And they of course have some damage control with Landorus, getting those big Intimidates off. And they are missing terrain control, so that could be a way that teams try to take advantage of them. And they are missing weather control, so another way that teams could take advantage of them. But they have a lot of power on their team and a lot of ways to hit Pokemon really freaking hard. So that's why they're up here, taking a look at ways that they can deal damage and end the game before all that other stuff matters. We'll see how they do this season. Looking really excited, and a very strong team to see how they do. Next up, we have the Barcelona Malamads. This team is very interesting at first glance. They have terrain with Tapu Lele. They also have speed control between having weather speeds or having Prankster Tailwind on the Whimsicott, or Unburden on the Slurpuff as another example. They also have actually they're missing some of the damage controls. They don't have an Intimidate Pokemon, so that's kind of a downside from their part. But they also have that Tailwind and Dracovish Fish's Rend combo that's really strong too. Really excited to see how this team does as well. I think they're also missing some redirection as well. But I think when I looked at this team and I looked at Tailwind Fish's Rend, I looked at Gigalith, I looked at Veltal, Tapu Lele, all of those things I think are going to combine to make this team really scary with some really powerful options. So really interested to see how this team does this season. I think it's got a lot of really strong options that are not immediately apparent. So I think they're going to be really cool, and they may be a little bit more difficult in terms of how to prep for. Next up, we got the Pittsburgh Celestilas. Now this team, the power is apparent. You got Tapu Koko, you got Suicune, you got Solgaleo. There's a lot of really freaking good options here. And then of course there's their speed control. My personal favorite form of speed control, Sableye with Quash. I think that move is so good because it doesn't matter if you're in or out of Trick Room. You can have a really fast mon, you could have a really slow mon. Sableye is going to make that mon look real good. They also have terrain control with the Tapu Koko. So really good option there as well. And Suicune, I believe, also gets Tailwind for this generation. So another really cool option there. They have some good debuffing options. So some damage control with Salamence and Torracat, both getting Intimidate. And then also good speed control on Porygon 2, forgot to mention that one. This team doesn't really have a great option in terms of weather. Sableye can set weather with Prankster. So they may try to take advantage of that with like a Leafeon Chlorophyll. Either way, really cool team. I think they have a lot of really powerful options. So some really good... Oh, I don't think I've mentioned Dynamax options. Yeah, they have some really good Dynamax options here between Solgaleo. I think Tapu Koko can put that into. An Unburdened Sceptile I think could be really strong. As well as, of course, a Salamence with potentially Moxie getting some huge damage boosts off. Next off, we have the Middle Village Pidoves. This team's got a lot of really good stuff going for it. It has, it's got powerful Dynamax options, of course. Regirock, Dialga, both being very powerful options to Dynamax. And then it's got some really good speed control. It's mostly got like slower speed control. It's got Bronzor to Trick Room. I think Dialga also gets Trick Room. I'm not actually sure about that one. And then the one that I think is the coolest out of this one, and I think is the most unique out of all the other teams, is that Pheromosa also has Speed Swap. So you Speed Swap with potentially like the Regirock, and now that thing has, it's real fast. So that could be a really interesting tech that they decide to bring this season that I think could be really cool. They also have some redirection with Fungus, not the greatest, but also it's good to have, right? Sometimes all you need is one turn. They also have some good terrain control. Tapu Fini, of course, is amazing at setting terrain. They have some good damage control between Morgrem having Prankster Screens and Incineroar, of course, being Incineroar. I don't think we need to talk about that. One thing that they are kind of missing out on potentially is weather. But these Dynamax options are so powerful, and they have some really good forms of speed control that weather may or may not be an issue. That could be a way that teams try to take advantage of them, though. And then, of course, we got little Trapinch sitting in there, potentially trapping someone in a matchup they don't want to be in. I think that might be kind of funny. I wonder if they'll bring it and how it goes. And we're starting to get... So this is actually top 3 right here. So the team that we have as the second strongest team is the Diggersby Destroyers. This team looks sweet. They have some really good speed control between Regieleki, of course, being like the fastest freaking Pokemon out there, and being able to use Electroweb to set up some speed control on that side. Also have some good options for terrain control, getting like the Unburden boost on Hitmonlee, and so that could be another really solid option. They also have Gothitelle for either an Imprisoned Trick Room set or using Trick Room themselves. They have like one of the best redirection Pokemon with that Clefairy. And you pair that alongside Zacian, and this team is going to hit really freaking hard. Their Dynamax options, doesn't feel like they have too many of them. I kind of look at this team and think that like Rillaboom is going to be the one Gigantamaxing most of the time. Hitmonlee could do it. Lapras could do it, although notice this isn't G-Max Lapras. This is the regular Lapras. However, looking at the rest of their team, they have some really solid options from there. One thing the Celtics team is also missing out on is weather control, but of course there are ways that they could deal with that with their team. So looks really solid, and I think that they, in my opinion, they're deserving of the top 2 spot. Now the team that we have placed at the first is the New Jersey Jealousense. This team is strong across the board. Really powerful Dynamax options. Celesteela can do that. Turtonator can do that. Garchomp could, and Kyogre could. So, and of course Kingdra. So they have some really good Dynamax options. Also have some good speed control with weather, and Prankster Tailwind on Tornadus, as well as Prankster Thunderwaves on Grimmsnarl. It's another really solid option. They have some good damage control. I say that and you look at like, wait, who's their Intimidate Pokemon? It's Litten. Like that's not a good option. But their damage control kind of comes in a different way. It comes through like Ally Switch on the Bronzong. It comes through Screens on the Grimmsnarl. It comes through Lightning Rod on the Raichu. Some kind of different ways of controlling damage that I think has some really cool options. I think it's going to be pretty powerful for them. One thing they're missing here is redirection. However, of course, Bronzong having that ally switch could mess things up a little bit. And this team hits so hard that they may not care about the redirection. So one way that like teams could potentially try to fight them. And of course, they have like these super powerful, strong options themselves. They also don't have terrain control. However, they do have probably the best weather Pokemon in Kyogre, taking advantage of powerful water spouts to get that really good spread damage. So looking at this team, they just have threat upon threat upon threat. And so while they're missing some of the options that you might think of from other teams, they're strong. And I think that this team is very deserving of being the top spot in our power rankings. Well, if you've made it this far, appreciate you for sticking around, and be on the lookout for videos from our channel. If any of the other coaches are going to post videos, not sure if any of them are, then those will get linked in the descriptions of our videos, so you can go check out theirs as well. We are actually starting week 1 this week, so be on the lookout for any videos coming out from our channel as well as any of the other channels. And thank you, of course, for being here. Please consider liking and subscribing to get more of our Draft League content. And of course, we wish you the best.